and welcome back to Friday Reads, where we help you find your next read. I'm Jill.
And I'm Julie. And this week, in honor of Women's History Month, we're going to talk about remarkable women in fiction.
So I'm going to start us off with the autobiography of Mrs. Tom Thumb by Melanie Benjamin. For anyone who loves historical novels of Sarah Gruen, Geraldine Brooks, and E.L. Doctorow, this is a barnstorming tale of an irrepressible, brawling bawdy era and the remarkable woman who had the courage to match the unique spirit of America's Gilded Age. So she was only 2 feet 8 inches tall, but more than a century later, her legend reaches out to us. As a child, Mercy Lavinia Vinnie Warren Bump was encouraged to live a life hidden away from the public. Instead, she reached out to the immortal impresario P.T. Barnum and married the tiny superstar General Tom Thumb in the wedding of the century and became the world's most unexpected celebrity. Vinnie's wedding captivated the nation, preempted coverage of the Civil War, and even ushered her into the White House.
Oh my.
But her fame was also endangered the person she prized the most, her similarly sized sister Minnie, a gentle soul unable to escape the glare of Vinnie's spotlight. This is a barnstorming novel of the Gilded Age. The autobiography of Mrs. Tom Thumb is the irresistible epic of a heroine who conquered the country with a heart as big as her dreams, and whose story will surely win over yours. So that was kind of fun.
Sounds interesting. And my first pick is The Other Einstein by Marie Benedict, published in 2016. In the tradition of The Paris Wife and Mrs. Poe, The Other Einstein offers us a window into a brilliant, fascinating woman whose light was lost in Einstein's enormous shadow. It is the story of Einstein's wife, a brilliant physicist in her own right, whose contribution to the special theory of relativity is hotly debated and may have been inspired by her own profound and very personal insight. Miss America has always been a little different from other girls. Most 20-year-olds are wives by now, not studying physics at an elite Zurich university with only male students trying to outdo her clever calculations. But she is smart enough to know that for her, math is an easier path than marriage. And then fellow student Albert Einstein takes an interest in her, and the world turns sideways. Theirs becomes a partnership of the mind and of the heart, but there might not be room for more than one genius in this marriage. So this one sounded kind of interesting to me.
Smart Woman in Science. My next one is Mademoiselle Chanel by C.W. Gortner. This is for the readers of The Paris Wife, and Z comes this vivid novel full of drama, passion, tragedy, and beauty that stunningly imagines the life of iconic fashion designer Coco Chanel. The ambitious, gifted laundry woman's daughter who revolutionized fashion, built an international empire, and became one of the most influential and controversial figures of the 20th century. Born in rural poverty, Gabrielle Chanel and her siblings were sent to an orphanage after their mother's death. The sisters nurture Gabrielle's exceptional sewing skills, a talent that will propel the willful young woman into a life far removed from the drudgery of her childhood. Transforming herself into Coco, a seamstress and sometimes torch singer, the petite brunette burns with ambition, an incandescence that draws a wealthy gentleman who will become the love of her life. She immerses herself in this world of money and luxury, discovering a freedom that sparks her creativity. But it is only when her lover takes her to Paris that Coco discovers her destiny. Rejecting the frilly, corseted silhouette of the past, her sleek, minimalist styles reflect the youthful ease and confidence of the 1920s modern woman. As Coco's reputation spreads, her courtier business explodes, taking her into rarefied society circles and bohemian salons. But her fame and fortune cannot save her from heartbreak as the years pass. And when Paris falls to the Nazis, Coco is forced to make a choice that will haunt her. An enthralling novel of extraordinary woman who created a life she desired, Mademoiselle Chanel explores the inner world of a woman's staggering ambition whose strength, passion, and artistic vision would become her trademark. So, Coco Chanel.
My second pick is The Book Woman of Troublesome Creek by Kim Michelle Richardson, published in 2019. This probably is familiar to a lot of people. This was a New York Times and USA Today bestseller. In 1936, tucked deep into the woods of Troublesome Creek, Kentucky, lives the last living female of the rare Blue people ancestry. the lonely young Appalachian woman joins the historical Pack Horse Library Project of Kentucky and becomes a librarian, riding across slippery creek beds and up treacherous mountains on her faithful mule to deliver books and other reading materials to the impoverished hill people in Kentucky. Along her dangerous route, this woman, known as Blewett, confronts those suspicious of her damselfly blue skin and the government's new book program. She befriends hardscrabble and complex fellow Kentuckians and is fiercely determined to bring comfort and joy, instill literacy, and give to those who have nothing. A book respite and a fleeting retreat to faraway lands. Inspired by the true and historical blue-skinned people of Kentucky and the brave and dedicated Kentucky Pack Horse Library Service, this book showcases a bold and unique tale of these pack horse librarians in literary novels. A story of fierce strength and one woman's belief that books can carry us anywhere, even back home. The Pack Horse Library Project of the Works Progress Administration employed women of the Appalachian region of Kentucky to deliver books and other reading material to remote mountain schools and residences. By the 1930s, library extension services to the mountain region had declined, and industrialization had heightened residents' awareness of the need for literacy. These developments, along with the use of local women as carriers, contributed to the acceptance of the WPA program by communities that traditionally had distrusted government intrusion. The program also fostered interest in reading about the outside world in a region that for nearly 2 centuries had experienced isolation and high rates of illiteracy. This program delivered books to remote regions in the Appalachian Mountains between 1935 and 1943.
Oh. My next choice is called Margot. It's by Gillian Cantor. Anne Frank has long been a symbol of bravery and hope, but there were 2 sisters hidden in the annex, 2 young Jewish girls, one a cultural icon made famous by her published diary, and the other nearly forgotten. In the spring of 1959, the diary of Anne Frank has just come to the silver screen to great acclaim, and a young woman named Margie Franklin is working in Philadelphia as a secretary at a Jewish law firm. On the surface, she lives a quiet life, but Margie has a secret, a life she once lived, a past and a religion she has denied, and a family and a country she has left behind. Margie Franklin is really Margot Frank, older sister of Anne, who did not die in the Bergen-Belsen as reported, but who instead escaped the Nazis for America. But now, as her sister becomes a global icon, Margie's carefully constructed American life begins to fall apart. A new relation threatens to overtake the young love that sustained her during the war, and her past and present begin to collide. Margie is forced to come to terms with Margot and the people she loved, and a life swept up in the coursework of history. Now, I wanted to add a note that there really were 2 sisters, but they both died in the war. So some of the reviewers were kind of upset about the revisionist historical fiction, but yeah, this is a reimagining of Margot Frank if she would have lived.
Kind of an interesting idea.
Yeah.
My third pick for today is Finding Dorothy by Elizabeth Lutz, published in 2019. It's a richly imagined novel that tells the story behind The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, the book that inspired the iconic film through the eyes of author L. Frank Baum's intrepid wife, Maud. From the family's hardscrabble days in South Dakota to the Hollywood film set where she first meets Judy Garland. Maud Gage Baum, widow of the author of The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, met Judy Garland playing the role of Dorothy on the set of Wizard of Oz in 1939. At the time, Maud was 78 and Judy was 16. In spite of their age difference, Maud immediately connected to the young Judy, especially when she heard her sing Over the Rainbow, a song whose yearning brought to mind the tough years in South Dakota when Maud and her husband struggled to make a living, until Frank Baum's book became a national sensation. This is a wonderful, evocative, 2-stranded story, and it recreates Maud's youth as the rebellious daughter of a leading suffragette and the prairie years of Maud and Frank's early days when they lived among the people, especially young Dorothy, who would inspire Frank's masterpiece. Woven into this past story is one set in 1939 describing the high-pressure days on the Wizard of Oz film set, where Judy is badgered by the director, producer, and her ambitious stage mother to lose weight, bind her breasts, laugh, cry, and act terrified on command. As Maude had promised to protect the original Dorothy back in Aberdeen, she now takes on the job of protecting the young Judy in the movie.
I read that one.
I did too, and I enjoyed it.
It was good. The Home for Erring and Outcast Girls by Julie Kibler. This is an emotionally raw and resonant story of love, loss, and the enduring power of friendship, following the lives of two young women connected by a home for fallen girls and inspired by historical events. In the turn of the 20th century Texas, the Baracock Home for the Redemption and Protection of Erring Girl is an unprecedented beacon of hope for young women consigned to dangerous poverty of the streets by birth, circumstance, or personal tragedy. Built in 1903 on the dusty outskirts of Arlington, a remote dot between Dallas and Fort Worth's red light districts, the progressive home bucks public opinion by offering faith, training, and rehabilitation to prostitutes, addicts, and unwed mothers, and ruin girls without forcibly separating mothers from children. When Lizzie Bates and Maddie McBride meet there, one sick and abused but desperately clinging to her young daughter, the other jilted by the beau who fathered her ailing son, they form a friendship that will see them through unbearable loss, heartbreak, and difficult choices, and ultimately diverging paths. A century later, Kate Sutton, a reclusive university librarian, uncovers the hidden histories of the two troubled women as she stumbles through the cemetery of the home's former grounds and begins to comb through its archives in her library. Pulled by an indescribable connection, what Kate discovers about their stories leads to her to confront her own heartbreaking past and to reclaim the life she thought she'd let go forever. With great pathos and powerful emotional resonance, Home for Erring and Outcast Girls explores dark roads that lead us to ruin and the paths we take to return to ourselves. So,
My next pick for today is probably another one many of you are familiar with. It is Lilac Girls by Martha Hall Kelly, published in 2017. This book is inspired by the life of a real World War II heroine. This debut novel reveals a story of love, redemption, and secrets that were hidden for decades. The story is based on the true story of a New York socialite who championed a group of concentration camp survivors known as the Rabbits. These women were called rabbits because they were experimented on like guinea pigs. I read about one woman who was just 14 years old when they cut her leg open and infected it with tetanus and gangrene, broken glass, and dirt just to test the efficacy of the sulfa drugs. So they experimented on them. So in this book, New York socialite Caroline Faraday has her hands full with her post at the French consulate and a new love on the horizon. But Caroline's world is forever changed when Hitler's army invades Poland in September 1939 and then sets its sights on France. An ocean away from Caroline, Kasia Kuzmarek, a Polish teenager, senses her carefree youth disappearing as she is drawn deeper into her role as a courier for the underground resistance movement. In a tense atmosphere of watchful eyes and suspecting neighbors, one false move can have dire consequences. And the third character is the ambitious young German doctor, Herta Eberhauser. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. An ad for government medical position seems her ticket out of a desolate life. Once hired, though, she finds herself trapped in a male-dominated realm of Nazi secrets and power. The lives of these three women are set on a collision course when the unthinkable happens and Kasia is sent to Ravensbrück, the notorious Nazi concentration camp for women. Their stories cross continents from New York to Paris, Germany, and Poland as Caroline and Kasia strive to bring justice to those whom history has forgotten.
My final pick for today is The Kennedy Debutante by Carrie Maher. It's a captivating novel following the exploits of Kathleen Kick Kennedy, the forgotten and rebellious daughter of one of America's greatest political dynasties. London, 1938, the effervescent it girl of London society since her father was named the ambassador, Kathleen Kick Kennedy moves in rarefied circles, rubbing satin-covered elbows with some of the 20th century's most powerful figures. Eager to escape the watchful eye of her strict mother Rose and the antics of her older brothers Jack and Joe, the erratic behavior of her sister Rosemary, Kick is ready to strike out on her own and is soon swept off her feet by Billy Hartington, the future Duke of Devonshire. But their love is forbidden, as Kick's devout Catholic family and Billy's staunchly Protestant one will never approve of their match. When war breaks like a tidal wave across the world, Billy is ripped from her arms as Kennedys are forced to return to the States. Kick gets to work as a journalist and joins the Red Cross to get back to England, where she will have to decide where her true loyalties lie, with family or with love. So, a Kennedy daughter that nobody remembers.
Oh, Kennedys are always a popular subject, aren't they? And my last book is The Engineer's Wife by Tracy Enerson Wood, published in 2020. She built a monument for all time, and then she was lost in its shadow. In this book, you can discover the fascinating woman who helped design and construct the Brooklyn Bridge. Emily Roebling refuses to live conventionally. She knows who she is and what she wants, and she's determined to make change. But then her husband asks the unthinkable: give up her dreams to make his possible. Emily's fight for women's suffrage is put on hold and her life transformed when her husband, Washington Roebling, the chief engineer of the Brooklyn Bridge, is injured on the job. Untrained for the task, but under his guidance, she assumes his role despite stern resistance and overwhelming obstacles. But as the project takes shape under Emily's direction, she wonders whose legacy she is building, hers or her husband's. As the monument rises, Emily's marriage, principles, and identity threatens to collapse. When the Brooklyn Bridge finally stands finished, will she recognize the woman who built it? Based on the true story, the American icon, The Engineer's Wife, delivers an emotional portrait of a woman transformed by a project of unfathomable scale, which takes her into the bowels of the East River, suffragette riots, the halls of Manhattan's elite, and the heady freewheeling temptations of P.T. Barnum. The biography of a husband and wife determined to build something that lasts, even at the risk of losing each other. This one I'm going to probably read. It sounded interesting to me. Did you read this one?
No, that sounds good though. Thanks for watching. We hope this has helped you find what you're going to read next.
Please like or share this video, comment on what you are reading. We're always happy to hear from you, and thanks for watching. Bye-bye.